Welcome to Blend LA. My name is DJ Big D.
And I go by Albius Negroni.
And the Amp Collectors once again is marching on with their Blend LA podcast dedicated to the culture of house music. We have a very interesting guest coming up today on this airing of Blend LA, an educator, a DJ, and producer, Justin Paul, who resides in Los Angeles. Very happy to get him on as a guest, so I'm sure you're going to find it interesting. So hang on for that, coming up a little bit later. But for now, I said for now, for now, Albius myself, we're going to catch up a little bit and let you know what's been happening with us and what's been happening in Los Angeles around the house music scene and culture. What's going on, my man?
Something's wrong on the shoulders.
Yeah, your head. What's on top of it?
Summer's approaching fast. Summer is approaching fast, so I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah, like to get out there and get going in LA, get some stuff popping. House music, Afro beats is rolling. A lot of music happening at the Hollywood Bowl and elsewhere. Grand performances is popping up at Grand Park. There's tons of stuff happening.
Tons of stuff. Blend is back in June at a resident on the 22nd of June.
I mean, it's looking up. It is looking up. So if you're in the LA area, man, don't forget to stay on the socials. We'll let you know what's happening, where we're going to be, who we're going to check out, and where we've been. And, you know, we also try to do our part in participating by going out and seeing other entities of this culture out there where we can, when we can. I'm a bit of a house bug. I like to stay around my house, but this one tries to get me out and go out.
He's a house bug. I'm a house music bug. It's
quite
a contrast these days.
I like
as you get older, you will become a house bug. Yeah, but right now I'm still 20 years younger.
And there's that. No, he's not.
No. I mean, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
When's the last time? We haven't been on here in a while. Have we been on here since we did Good? Oh, I don't remember.
No. That sounds good. That sounds good.
So it's been so long. Good used to be this party. It was a day party at Hello Stranger. It was on Sundays, but now they're moving it. I just saw that they're moving to Friday nights.
Whereabouts? Hello Stranger?
In Hollywood. I'd have to look up the location, but this will air after this Friday. So
okay. Go check that out. It's like, we're big fans of this music.
Derek Wise.
And it's happening all over the city. Can't wait to get up in the mix this summer and check out some of our favorite DJs and she-Js. Can you say she-Js?
Say whatever you want, D.
Already.
No.
And there it is. Get out there.
DJs are she-Js is just fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He-Js and she-Js.
Why not, man? Yeah. So what else has been going on, man? You've been out in the beach?
Not much. A lot of birthdays going on. Shit.
Yeah,
my family more birthday parties than ever.
Had a whole bunch of celebrations down at the Juju Social Club, which is another great venue for house music. If you're in the Los Angeles area, please hit them up online. Check out the Juju Social Club there on Instagram. You can hit those guys up, become a member of the social networking, if you will, and that way you'll stay in touch with what's happening. They have tons of great DJs. We saw Third Son Ade, and closing it down last Saturday was Gart Trinidad, heck of a DJ personality as well out in Los Angeles. Yeah. So if you're in the area, please check out Juju when you get a chance. They do a really good job of keeping this culture rolling.
They do. And if you're a DJ, they do like these open was it Wednesday wind down?
Yes, Wednesday wind down / open decks. So if you want to get on, you got a little something to say about this music and this culture, they got some open decks. You go down there to sign up and, see what you got. But if you ain't good, they take you in the back and beat you up. So
kind of like, they used to do. They don't have the Sandman. They got the, I don't know, Jefferson Park man.
No, but I don't want to beat you up. But this is a good look, man. You got young DJ. You want to see what you've been, practicing in your bedroom or your home. You want to get out there. Check out Juju Social Club on Wednesday. Their Wednesday wind down where they have open decks, so you can go out and check that out. Hopefully, we'll see you there in the mix as well. We usually go down there from time to time just to see what's popping.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we're actually on here because you're always on the go. Weren't you just in Lake Como or some
I
shit?
was, yes,
And you
yes.
were raving about it while I was sitting in Los Angeles,
I like to,
in New
hey, man,
Gotham, avoiding.
it is one of the, you know, caveats, if you will, of not having children. You can pick up and go when you want to go. And this kind of trip came out of nowhere in a way. When we thought it was going to happen and weren't sure, so I didn't really plan. And then it came about, and then a couple of weeks you had to put it all together. So with the Lake Como,
Uh,
Venice, Milan, and then I had a few weeks respite, my wife and I, and then went back home to St. Thomas for a couple of days, 10 days, and now we're here.
did you get to play
And going to
any?
enjoy the summer. Going to go to the Hollywood Bowl to check out the Blue Note Jazz Festival. I guess it was called the old Playboy Jazz Festival. This coming up in June, and then after that we take off and go to the Hamptons. Go to the Hamptons for a while. Got some friends out there. And 4th of July weekend, we'll throw something on the Bobby and cruise on the Hamptons for a while and see what's back, and then come on back. And that should be it. I will be satisfied
Well,
with just staying
well,
put after that
well,
in Los Angeles. So much going on here that I want to be a part of, and these trips come about, so you got to take them while you can. Might be a time when you're too old to move around, but until then, I'm a Rolling Stone. I'm out there.
yeah, well, my travel schedules. I think I'm going next week.
Yeah, well, you were in Panama not too long ago, and Colombia.
Yeah, but this
Okay,
summer I'll be going. I'll probably go to Burbank, and then from Burbank I might go to downtown and
Thousand Oaks,
maybe make it to Orange County,
Orange
and then
County.
back to S Studio City. Yeah, so it's going to be an eventful next
Do
couple of
what you
months.
can
And
when you can.
if I find a cheap ticket, I may just go somewhere.
Aren't
Shit.
you going to Paris?
Probably not till October.
Okay, that's a good time to go. That's a
Yeah,
good time to go. Good
that's
time
the
to go.
last time that I went. I liked it that time.
Yeah,
But I don't know. We'll see. If something pops up this summer,
we will
I will.
see. Yeah,
But in the
and then
meantime,
we
there's a
got
lot
that
like
popping. We're going to be playing at the Resident coming up pretty soon on the 22nd
of June.
of June. So that's going to be kind of cool too to do what we do, but put it out there. That last one was really good. Had a good time playing
Yeah, we
last summer.
have we have somebody joining us that hasn't ever played with us before.
Yes, third son from
Yeah.
Juju, from the Juju Social Club. He's going to be playing with us. We can't wait for that. That's going to be, I'm sure, a whole new audience for him and get to experience what he does. We saw him last weekend playing Juju, so it was really, really cool to hear how he puts things together. And we
Yeah.
can't wait to hear his set at Blend.
Right. Right.
Yeah, looking forward to it, man.
Wow.
What else? What else? What else was catching up? What else? What else we got?
Not much, man. Just living in our world. Not much. Just living, and keeping the TV off and staying happy.
That's a
Staying
good look. That is
happy.
always a good look. TV off.
I did this whole music crash course, almost 8 months ago. So I need to like tap into that again.
Yeah.
Like, try to make some bass so we can make some basic tracks. Because Derek, D has some amazing vocals he wants to lay down. You all
Oh, okay.
have no idea of this dude's vocal ability. As a matter of fact, I might put up a couple of clips from our lab works sessions on our
The lab
YouTube channel
works.
so you
Yes,
can
let's
see
remind
them.
folks. Let's remind folks.
Oh yeah,
Lab works is something my man Albius and I do every Saturday. It airs on YouTube. If you get, please go ahead and like, subscribe, notify, share, all that good stuff. The Amp Collective on YouTube, and every Saturday, 12 p.m. Pacific side. It airs every Saturday, and 3 p.m. on the East Coast is when it goes down. So we have about
3.
53 episodes up there. So please go and check it out. You like good music, man? We record it here in South Central Los Angeles, and we put it up. We use really good recording, really good sound. So if you want to Bluetooth it to your home stereo or your car, it's gonna sound real crispy coming out of that, man, boy. So we put a lot of attention to make sure that the sound is really, really good. So on the other end, you can enjoy Lab Works by the Amp Collective on
Yeah,
YouTube every Saturday.
every Saturday. And I think we're about to take it back to back to do our Malibu Point Magoo that we did.
It's
What
gonna be a
time of
minute.
year
It's
did we
gonna be
do
in
that?
because
August?
PCH just opened up.
Oh,
That's the kicker.
maybe we
PCH just
didn't.
opened up,
Maybe
so
we
it's
didn't
it's,
do
it's
that till
very
like
very slow. It's slow to go, slow go one lane. It's one lane.
really,
Yeah, it's one lane. It's not full tilt yet, so it's gonna be a while. I
right,
mean, it could be done if you go through the valley, go through Tarzana, come down. You can do that, but that's a pain in the behind.
right.
Yeah,
Okay,
but it
so
can be
yeah,
done.
maybe August,
Go through
late
Ventura off the
August.
101 and go over the hill. It can be done, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a
So
lot.
when we get ready to do that, we got to tap into Nebtronic.
Yeah, get it up and get it going. Get
I
it
almost
up and
thinking
get
we
it.
should invite some people to come out and be part of the be part of the background or something. I mean, it's an amazing setting. I ain't gonna lie. That shit is dope. Even without people there. As long as it's the music in the background, it's cool. Couple of seagulls and shit. Highway patrol rolling by. It's all good.
Yes, it can be done. It can be done. It can be done. It can be done. But yeah, please check out the Blend LA. There's a lot going on. Blend LA Lab Works, and then we perform. Stay tuned to us, man. Check us out. Check
Yeah.
out the Instagram. Like, subscribe, and notify on that bad boy too. That way you know what's
Right.
going on. We're usually pretty good about putting things in the link tree to let you know what's happening when it's happening. So please go ahead and do that as well. All right.
Absolutely.
But
That's
coming
it.
up, Justin. All right. All right. Don't forget, coming right up after this, Justin Paul, educator, DJ, and producer out of Los Angeles, been doing this bad boy for quite some time. He has a lot to offer, a lot to say. We hope that you enjoy his interview and also a mix by him with some of his music as well for you to enjoy. Coming up on this episode of Blend LA. Right?
Correcto.
Admit, Justin Paul, there he is.
Oh, shit.
There he is. Unmute yourself, Justin, if you're there. It's Big D and Albius. There you go. How are you?
Hey,
Paul's in
Good.
there. What's
Good
happening?
afternoon. How you guys doing?
Good, man.
good. How
Nice
are
to meet
you?
you. You go,
Nice to
Tracy.
meet you both as well.
Hold on. I need to fix this screen.
Hang on. Tracy's working on something.
What did I do?
I think, there you go.
Okay.
All
Back to
right. All
normal.
right.
Back to normal.
So nice
Big
meeting you,
D.
Justin. Where are you, man? You out of, you're in Arizona. Is that correct? Or are you in
No,
LA?
no, no. I'm here in Los Angeles. I'm on the west side.
Okay. Fair enough. On the west sides. So Andre, I believe, is not joining this call. He's just you.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Andre's just connected us all.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Fair enough.
Yeah, because Andre reached out through an email and it had mentioned that Andre's a guy or a girl.
Andre's a guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Andre is on my marketing team.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
Awesome.
you ready to go? I'll do the intro and then I'll let Tracy ask some questions. Is that all right?
That's good. Yeah.
Okay,
Let's
here we
do it.
go. In 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome to Blend LA. My name is DJ Big D.
And I go by Albius Negroni.
And on this episode of Blend LA, the podcast dedicated to the culture of house music, we have Justin Paul, DJ, producer extraordinaire here in Los Angeles. And, well, here we go. A new take, a new person that's also about this music, about this culture we want to introduce you to. So, Albius, let's get
Here
into
we
it.
go.
Welcome, Justin. Welcome. Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome,
Thank you.
welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for taking your time out to, be on our podcast. Andre had reached out to us via email mentioning you, and he thought that you would be a great, person to interview about the culture of house music, since that's what we do. So here we are. So I'm wondering, so you're based out of LA?
I am. Yeah. I've been based in LA for about 16 years now.
Okay. what I find really interesting is I was looking over your EPK and I'm like, you performed over 1,500 times. You're a DJ, you're a producer, you're an educator at UCLA and part of the California University systems. And I was looking at all your socials, but it's like, we're like, who is this guy? We've never heard of him. So we are so glad to have you on our show, to just to get to know you because I think it's important because we've been doing this now for like 9 years. So for us to not even know who you are and the fact that you're a producer, you produce house music, you play house music, you create events, you have a project called, I think it's Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Experience, where you bring different people together to I guess experience house music and whether it's house or electronic or whatever it is. So I'm glad you're on the show and we would like to just get to know you. Like what brought you into the scene? Where did you start back in the day as a DJ and a producer?
Well, yeah, it goes way, way back to probably the late 80s. I had a cousin who was like a big brother, and he was a DJ. He was kind of the DJ that saved my life.
Okay.
And I started out helping him, just really just carrying records and speakers and helping him do gigs. And what was interesting during that time, there weren't really enough records to play a whole house music set, right around that time. I think it was around 88, 89. I think we came across Maurice, This Is Acid. We had that record. We had X Express. Um, and then to fast forward the story a little bit, a friend of ours, and we're still debating on who gave us the cassette tape, but it was a recording of B96 from Chicago. I don't know if you guys are familiar with B96, but it's a legendary show that aired, I think, on multiple radio stations in Chicago. It's the first time we'd heard of Bad Boy Bill or Brian Middleton and a bunch of cats. And we were just obsessed with this show.
Okay.
And we went on this quest, and I'd say the quest probably lasted 4 or 5 years to find every house record that was on this double-sided cassette. And as you both know, during this time and moving into the early 90s, there's no Shazam.
Right.
It's unless they announce the record, you have no idea what it is. So over the years of traveling and even getting to go to Chicago and New York and other places and do crate digging, we would finally come across these records. We would um, try to emulate some of the mixes that we heard on the cassette and give it our own kind of flavor.
Okay.
And all this was taking place in probably the most unlikely region in the United States. And this is in the Southern Ohio and Huntington, West Virginia, where the Marshall University campus was. I was a student at this university, and there were probably 5 or 6 nightclubs with a pair of Technics 1200s. And I was part of the college radio station and just was really leaning into this music and felt that the world needed to hear it. And then, once I joined the college radio station, I'm now able to get a lot of promos sent to me. But at
Right.
that time in the early 90s, I'm going to say this is around 92, still most of the promos we're receiving are domestic records. And a lot of the really great underground records that we love were all coming out of Europe, right?
Right.
Okay.
So this is where things get even a little crazier is we're now calling London long distance and having them play records over the speakerphone for us. And we're like, yes, we'll take that one. Yes, no, we'll pass on that one. And running up really expensive
Wow.
long distance
Right.
bills to get these records shipped to us so that we could have records that nobody else had. So that's really kind of the inception of me becoming obsessed with house music and electronic music.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Any question, D? You got a question, D?
Yeah, I mean, when you started out, what was one of your first gigs that you did without your cousin, just on your own? Where was that? What year was that? How was
That
the
was in,
experience?
yeah, that was in 1988, and that was a club called the 1896 Club. They had like the dance club part was in the basement. It was like this old, I don't want to call it a mansion, but it was like a large house
Hmm.
that they'd converted into a nightclub that was near the college campus. And I was 18 years old. And, I was using his older brother's expired driver's license
Mm.
so that I could be in the clubs, even though I would, was always honest with the club owners and told them, how old I was. And they were just like, just don't have a drink in your hand,
Right.
just do your thing. But even then, just like the shirt that I'm wearing, and I see your picture of Prince back there.
Hmm.
I mean, there still weren't really enough house records to play an entire house set, so I'm playing Prince, I'm playing, Michael Jackson, I'm playing
Right.
The Cure, I'm playing Depeche Mode, um, even Clarence Carter Stroking. I don't know if you guys remember that
Wow.
I
record.
remember that record,
Um,
sure.
a lot of yeah, kind of implementing even some classic Motown and funk and soul, a
Right.
lot of Parliament funkadelic. It was a blend. It was just kind of really incorporating all those sounds. And I think what was really interesting about DJing during that time is maybe it was because the crowd had a lot of liquid courage, but they would just kind of go with it
Right.
and let you just do your thing. And during that era, from the late 80s up and through when I left that region in the mid 90s, I mean, the clubs would go until 3:30 a.m.
Right.
So you started DJing sometimes even at 9 p.m. and you're playing until 3:30 a.m.
It's a lot of
So you
records.
really got to dig through a lot of records
Yeah, it's a
and
lot of
really take
records.
people on a journey, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of
Yeah.
records.
So when it comes to DJ, producer, educator, did you start DJing and then go into production? Was that the transition?
It was. I think at some point, I'm going to say around 92, 93, it really occurred to me. I was like, it's amazing that I'm like this conduit to find records that I feel that everybody should hear, but I want to be able to play my own, right?
Right.
Right.
I want to be able to play my own remixes, my own records. And I was messing around with production at that point. But in that small college town, I just didn't have the access to certain things. Like I would go to the local music instrument store and I would be asking them for things that they just didn't even understand,
Wow.
right? I mean, they had, of course, Techniques 1200 turntables and some DJ mixers, but I was asking for, I think I'd saw an ad for like an Akai sampler. Of course, the Roland drum machines, they didn't really have anything like that. So fast forward the story, um, when I went to university, they didn't offer a degree in music industry, which
Right.
is what I'm so blessed to be able to teach at UCLA now. So I did radio, TV, film. It was the closest thing, and I got a job in television. Um, and I spent some time in Chicago, but we'll skip over that part of the story and kind of go to Philadelphia. And this is in
Okay.
May of '96. And I get a job working in television. And one day after we wrapped a show, I noticed this guy, we're still friends today, Darian Bagley. I could tell he was this really cool cat. He had dreads. He just looked the vibe. He looked like a house
Okay.
music cat, right?
Hmm.
So this voice in my head says you should go up and introduce yourself to him and ask him, where the good music is in town. And turns out that he was the doorman at Silk City Lounge, which is a legendary venue in Philadelphia. And that's where King Britt and Dazia Blakey
Hmm.
were hosting their Back to Basics party. And they did that every Monday and Saturday. So I showed up and it was pretty crazy because I remember walking up and there was King Britt like in a three-piece suit out front of
Wow.
Silk City holding court and all these cats around him. And I just bought his record When the Funk Hits the Fan. And it was just, yeah, really a very impressionable moment for me. And then
Hmm.
Darian introduced me to King, and he was just so friendly,
Wow.
And for me, coming from this smaller town, maybe at that time of 50, 60,000 people, it was just so cool to me how humble he was and how gracious he was. So I started attending this party every Monday and Saturday, even though I had to be on set at like 4:30 a.m.
Wow.
I
Oh,
would
wow.
hang out at this club, till the end. I'd go home, maybe take a 2 hour disco nap, and then
Right.
I'd go make TV. Ultimately, I become pretty close with Dazia Blakey. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dazia's records. You should. He was signed to Ovum Recordings out of Philadelphia. His uncle was the legendary Art Blakey, jazz drummer.
Okay.
And Dazia really was gracious to me, and he was the one kind of time closing the loop on this question about production. Dazia is really the one in the beginning that taught me MIDI, and he had
Okay.
an Ensoniq EPS uh, keyboard with a sampler in it, and he had an Ensoniq ASR 10. And at that time, he was using what was called Master Tracks. It's not even a piece of software people use anymore, and he was sequencing all of his music. And I would just sit with Daz in the studio for hours, just watching him grab samples from vinyl, you know, perfect the loop, truncate it, filter it, assign it across the keyboard chromatically so that you could play chords and other
Wow.
sounds through this. And
Oh,
I was just blown away. I was just like totally hooked. And then later, King Britt taught me how to sequence and use the Akai MPC 2000. And that was really, I was just hooked. I mean, at that point, I didn't sleep much.
okay.
Um, yeah, I'd worked my gig in television and was just really obsessed with all this equipment. And it took me many years, I feel like, to make something that was worthy,
Okay.
to play that anybody would be interested in. And I can kind of get into that later when I started my own record label and I kind of had these light bulbs in my mind went off, so to speak, of like, oh, I realize now why nobody signed me or
Wow.
no one listened to my demo. But we can talk about that later.
Cool. So when it comes to producing mainly house music, were there any artists or genres outside of house music that influenced your sound or your approach to actually making the music, or was it all just your creativity, or
I
was
mean,
it
there were so many influences. I mean, it's interesting, Big D. I see your picture of Prince back there. I'm rocking the Prince shirt. So I think that there were all those influences, a lot of those early records that I was playing,
okay?
across the board, whether it was Prince records or Depeche Mode records. And I even came across this double vinyl set. It was called The Cure, all mixed up, and it was
Oh,
like
wow.
all the Cure remixes.
Okay.
So for me as a creator, a DJ, a house music, electronic music producer, it was kind of taking all those influences in. Another really big influence, which I thought it was pretty interesting that I ended up in Philadelphia, was a DJ artist by the name of Josh Wink, who was King Britt's partner in Ovum Records. And Josh was like more on the techno side,
Mhm.
more what I
Okay.
would call left brain techno. But he was extremely eclectic and would incorporate soulful house even into his techno sets. So I would say that being part of Philadelphia during that time in the late 90s, early 2000s, being around just so many unbelievably talented DJs. Yeah, I was just a sponge for influences. And I
Okay.
think that, yeah, in the beginning, it was a balance of wanting to create something that was truly me, that was
Okay.
authentic to myself as an artist, but also pay respect to the classics, so to speak. And I think
Gotcha.
it's still that balance today. Um, the demo that I just sent you guys this morning is I think is that same kind of thing. It's like I'm paying a bit of homage with the keys, the chord structure to say classic Chicago house, but
Right.
Right.
yet there's still kind of a almost classic rock feel, if you will, with the vocalist in there. So I think it's a
Yeah.
melting pot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was able to listen to a little bit of it when I just saw that you sent it like an hour ago. It sounds really good. It sounds really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in your productions, you I haven't had a lot of time, but it seems like you blend a lot of different textures. So I'm wondering, when you start your process with a new track, do you start with a melody? Do you start with rhythm, or is it entire? It just is it organic, where it could be a melody or a rhythm or something entirely different?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it's situational. I would say historically, it was always about the percussion and the bass line, right?
Okay. Okay.
Um, and it's funny, I remember King Britt and I laughing about how we had the ability to take a nap on subwoofers in nightclubs back in the day,
Right.
where we'd be out, till noon. So for me, it was always about like that kick and that bass line, right? I think in the early days of trying to perfect that so that those sounds would really translate on those large sound systems.
Right.
Like when we would go to Twilo or Sound Factory back in the day. So that's really kind of where it started. But I would say as of late, in the case of the track "I'm on Fire," where I'm a co-songwriter and producer of the original, what we were able to do with that track is open up the original session, basically mute everything except the vocals
Hmm.
and the background vocals, and we really started with that. And then I heard these background vocals that are in the original song, but I was like, wait, there's a nugget of gold in here. And I'm sure you guys can relate to this. Some of our favorite songs, it's the background singers that we really remember the hook from the song.
Right.
Right.
So in the case of this latest song, I took more the background vocals and really structured the song that way, right? Leading,
Yeah.
using those in the intro. So I would say it's situational, but I would say maybe half the time it's percussion and bass lines and keys. And then the other half, it's like, what's the story we're trying to tell here with the vocals? And that's the amazing thing about a remix is we don't have to tell the same story,
Right.
right? We could
Right.
tell a different story
Right.
with the remix.
Right. Considering you've been doing production for a number of years, nowadays it's totally different, I would imagine. I just started that. We just started dabbling in production, but are there any like go-to plugins or instruments that you use now that just have simplified your process or made it a lot faster to get a track through production?
That's a great question. Over the years, I've used pretty much every DAW there is,
Okay.
starting with what I shared about Dazia using Master Tracks, which is now probably an obsolete piece of software.
Right.
Um, then King Britt was really an early adopter of Logic when it was still owned by eMagic,
Right.
and he got us, I guess you could call it sponsored. We had free full copies of Logic in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I was really big on Logic for a long
Hmm.
time. And then ultimately, I would say around 2006, 2007, I moved over to Ableton.
Right.
Okay.
And I still use Ableton quite a bit. But even with this particular song, because I'm co-writing and producing with another artist, he likes to use Pro Tools.
Okay.
Um, so I think for me at this point, they all do the same thing, right? I give the analogy to my students at UCLA. It's like, do you want the cruise control on the steering wheel or do you want it on the dashboard?
Right.
Do you want the volume control on your steering wheel or do you want it on the dash? Because it's all there, right? It's more
Hmm.
about the
Right.
ideas. And I know there was a period in my career where I got maybe a little caught up in brands, so to speak, of software, but I would say that it's all about what your collaborator is using. Like I had the benefit
Okay.
of being able to be roommates with King and Dazia for many years, and we each had our own floor in a house in Philly. And so we're all learning Logic at the same time, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I had the benefit of like knocking on King's door and be like, King, man, like, dude, I'm trying to figure this EXS 24 sampler out. Have you?
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, just let me show you. Like, so I think like whoever you're working with is you use what they're using, right? Because then you can work together and figure things out, I guess would be the best way to answer that question. As
Okay.
far as like plug-in packages, I really like Arturia. It's a French company. Somehow they got the licensing agreement to go in and recreate so many vintage
Mm.
keyboards.
Right.
Um, so I really like their stuff. Lately, I've been using a lot of the Roland Cloud stuff, which is what we used on this latest production. We used a lot of the Roland Cloud plugins, and Roland Cloud is basically they took all the classic Roland instruments and made them
Great sound.
virtual.
Great
Yeah.
sound.
Right.
Can't beat it.
So I'm really grateful to Jared Selter at Roland for hooking me up with Roland Cloud. And that's even something that I'm turning my students on to, because I'm sure later in the conversation, maybe we'll talk about the DJ's Performer course that I helped create at UCLA. But
Yeah, actually, I wanted to get into that a little bit. How does your DJing and producing for yourself work with your teaching? How does that? First of all, how did that all come about? You ended up at UCLA teaching.
it's a great question. Well, I would say, to answer the first part, I see it as a circle. They all feed each other, right?
Mhm.
So the more I do as a DJ, the more I do as a record producer, the more I can bring to the classroom, right? The more real world stuff. Something that I remember when I was young, and of course, I was mostly learning radio and television, but I felt at that time a lot of my teachers had done it,
Mhm.
a long time before they started teaching. So something that I'm really adamant about is making sure that I'm bringing real world stuff to the classroom. And it's not just me. Like, I invite a lot of my peers. Like, I felt it was really important to have Rich Medina as a guest speaker and really
Hey,
speak about black culture and how that really, the birth of that in DJ culture in general and music production, hip hop, house music. So it's not just me that's bringing this stuff. I'm tapping into people, like I'm, chasing King, to be another guest speaker for me this
Right.
fall, and other people. So I would say that, yeah, the more I play, the more records I produce, the more real world case studies I can bring
Yeah.
to the classroom.
And how does your curriculum change from year to year? I mean, with the changes that are happening, how does your first of all, how does that change, and how do your students absorb these changes that are happening in the music business?
Well, as you both know, we're in this streaming world, whether we like it or not, right?
Right.
So I think one of the biggest hurdles in a curriculum change that's coming is last fall when we introduced the DJ as performer at the UCLA School of Music, which is a really big deal because the School of Music is usually traditional classical music and jazz and maybe
Right.
pop ensemble. Is I was explaining to the students, like, ideally you need the wave files, right? You need to go on TrackSource or Beatport and download
I we
uncompressed.
we have been
yes,
preaching that
no
forever. We have been
MP3s,
talking about that
unfortunate
forever,
ever.
forever.
And their minds were just blown. They're like, well, how do we even get wave files or MP3s or AIFFs? I'm like, well, you use a site like TrackSource or Beatport or Juno Download. And they just, I think that's been one of the biggest hurdles for them to wrap their heads around. Because as you both can imagine, I spend probably the first several weeks of the course talking about history and records and production that led to where DJ culture is now. So I would say one of the big curriculum changes that I'm going to implement is, now that Apple Music and Pioneer Record Box and others have made a partnership where now they can integrate a streaming platform into DJing, is I'm going to kind of surrender to the flow and go with it. So at least they have access to music, but I'm going to make sure they understand that if they're fortunate enough to have a really great club booking or play, as you can imagine, a lot of the, 20 something year olds want to play at a big festival. I explained to them, when you play on a large sound system, that, streaming is not going to cut it, right?
I
The
try to
sound
tell
quality
people
is not.
that if it's really
Yeah.
good, it's really good loud. If it's really crappy, it's crappy loud. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that's one of the curriculum changes. Just like how we can put Pioneer Record Box software on our phone and have our library. I've got a controller that I'll grab here in a second, but I'm still going to probably spec out the Pioneer. I think it's the Flex 4. It's like a $300 controller. It's something that's somewhat affordable for the students
Right.
to get into. I got to give a lot of credit to Professor Dr. Robert Fink, who really helped me bring this course to UCLA. Because you asked that question, how did I get started at
Right.
UCLA School of Music?
Mm-hmm.
And originally, I started teaching in the adult education program,
That's
UCLA
cool.
Extension.
I remember that.
And then I kept walking by the School of Music, and this little voice in my head was like, "You're supposed to teach here." And I'm like, "I am? Okay." And so I went on the website and, found his profile, and I found another Philly connection, Dr. Tiffany Naiman. And turns out that Tiffany and I had all these mutual friends. She knew Rich Medina and a ton of Philly cats. So I would say it took me 3.5, 4 years to get that course approved and into the system.
Hmm.
But yeah, Bob Fink was really instrumental in making that happen and getting it in front of the academic senate
Hmm.
because they have to vote on it. It's quite the process. But something that he said to me is he was like, Justin, it's like a lot of the students have to take a biology or chemistry course, and that book might cost them $200 or $300. So I don't see a problem with you listing a $200 or $300 controller
Right.
on the syllabus, right?
Right.
And then I kind of keep it free form. It's like, hey, if you already have a controller, or maybe you're using Serato or something else instead, all the
Hmm.
principles still apply, right? I
Right.
mean, at the end of the day, we're not really teaching software. We're
Right.
teaching even some ways an untangibles like energy, dance floor psychology, um, you
It is
know,
one of
uh,
those kind of things, I mean, you got to do it to really understand the ins and outs of actually doing it. It's not one of those things you can do, you know, you're not going to get everything you can out of it. Not all the juice is going to come out of it until you actually do some serious squeezing where it needs to be squeezed. Like you got to play out, you got to like fall down a little bit, you got to pick yourself back up and go on. It's one of those things that I think is very, I don't know how people teach it. It's very difficult for me to even wrap my head around teaching someone to DJ. You have to be basically be born a DJ in order to really do it. So if you're doing it and getting it out there to the kids, I take my hat off to you
yeah.
in
Thank you. I
order to
appreciate that.
yeah, to push that forward.
I mean, I feel like it was Josh Wink who said this to me one time that it's a labor of love, what we do um, with house music and electronic music. And I feel like it's the same thing with teaching. I mean, I have to cap the class at 35 students. I mean, after that, I just don't have the bandwidth to
That's a
give them
lot
the
anyhow. That's a
attention.
lot of
It's
kids,
it's
man.
still a lot.
Yeah.
And you asked about what changes am I making to the curriculum.
Mhm.
Well, like a lot of um, professors who maybe create a course and get it going, is you come into it extremely ambitious.
Mhm.
And all of us, we grew up in the era of the multiple hour DJ set, right? So that's one thing that I had to be like, you know what? I don't have the bandwidth to give them a full attention and have everybody do multiple hour DJ sets. So in the beginning, I said an hour, but that's 35 hours of
Right.
listening in real time.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So I would say this time around, I'm going to cut it down to 30 minutes. And if you want to go
Yeah.
longer, great, but I probably will only have the bandwidth to listen for 30
Yeah.
minutes. And what's interesting is I teach other courses in the School of Music. I teach music industry fundamentals, and we can talk about that later about more the business side and being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. That's important
Uh,
right there.
but I have a TA for that course who can help me with the grading
Hmm.
because in that class I have like 60, 70 students.
Wow.
Um, but I can't really have a TA for the DJ as performer course because they aren't going to know what I know, right? There was one student, Shelly, who took my course. I feel like she could possibly be a TA for me this fall because she kind of gets it. She's also a little bit older, being a PhD student.
Hmm.
But that's a tough one to have a
Mm.
TA for.
Yeah. I can imagine that. I mean,
Wow.
have you seen any of your students out and about playing out and looking at how they're playing, what they're playing, and critiquing as you are also partaking in the music? And
I am. Yeah, it's really interesting to see. And as you both know, we're, you know, deeply in this social media, attention era, right? Where it's more
Yeah.
about trying to grab people's attention and maintain it. So I think that some of the critiques that I've had for my students is like, look, I totally get that you have to embrace, just like I am, what's happening with social media, but it's the music first. It's not about your photo shoot. It's not about your music video that you rushed through for your song that wasn't really ready to release. I think
right.
that's the tough thing. But at the same time, I see myself in them, right?
Hmm.
Like even early on in my music career, after I made this track called Red Shift, which I'm still really proud of today. It was a
Hmm.
track that King Britt loved and he signed and gave me my first record deal. But after that, there were a few tracks that I rushed through just because I wanted to keep putting music out because
Hmm.
as you both know, ultimately a lot of the really bigger gigs that you're going to get, and you're going to be able to build a tour on your own music, right?
Trust
So
me.
I felt the pressure to
Okay.
keep releasing music so I could keep booking more uh, great gigs, but I rushed them. Um, and I want them back. And I tell my students that I'm like, I listen to that stuff now and I'm like, I want to delete it. I want to get it
Right.
off all platforms. So I see myself in you that you're trying to rush this and get it out there because the artist ego, I mean, that's a challenging thing to navigate, right? As a
Yeah.
creator. So I would say that's the biggest thing I'm seeing with some of my students is they're so excited about it that they're almost maybe rushing it too much.
What's the
But it's
average age
all
of your students? Sorry to cut you off. That'd be
no
18,
worries.
19.
I would say the average age is probably 22. But
Wow.
yeah, it's interesting in that course with 35 students, I'm going to say we had students that were 19 to 26 years old. I had like
Okay.
one student who was in their 30s.
Oh wow.
Okay.
That's in the continuing ed.
No, that's in the School of Music.
Oh wow.
That's
Okay.
at yeah, that's the undergrad program that I teach in.
Wow.
Cool.
Wow. I mean, like you said, do you see like an urgency on their part to get out there, get music out there so they can build a name for themselves as a DJ as opposed to crafting? And is there any way that you and your teaching can curtail that to get it back to its origin about the music instead of being a performer, quote unquote, star or a social star? How does that work? And how are you wrangling that back in?
Well, I think that all I can do is, try to point it out to them in the most polite way. And I think this is something that I learned. I'm trying to remember that I had, so many mentors in my life to be able to get to where I'm at. But there was I think his name was Pat McGrath. I was recruited to teach in Philadelphia. So I've been in education for a long time. At that time, I was in a film television program, and Pat was kind of one of my mentors there, my first education role at a college. And what he would do when he would critique the students with their films or their editing is he would always find things that he liked first
Okay.
and point that out. And I thought there was a lot of wisdom in that because when you point things out that you like first, especially to an artist, and artists are sensitive creatures,
Right.
they tend to respond better when you point things out that you like about their art first before you offer them a critique. So
Right.
that's typically what I attempt to do is hopefully there's something about it that's really cool that I can authentically say, "Hey, I really like what you've done here,
Mhm.
but have you considered these things?"
Yeah.
And that's usually how I attempt to frame it because ultimately what I think a big difference, especially between adult education and university life, is being a university student is more about discovery. Uh, it's about critical thinking. It's about learning to assimilate all this stuff and try to make your own decisions, right?
Mhm.
Whereas I feel like a lot of the adult education stuff, that is probably more. Right on the nose of like here's how to do it, so to speak,
Right.
right? So I think it's kind of a balance of that. It's like I don't want to tell them, and I don't know if any of you have kids or have worked with younger people, but they tend to push back if you come at them too hard, right? So I think
Sure.
there's that fine line of trying to point out the goodness
Right.
versus leading them in a direction. And then the other thing is sometimes, and I tell them, like, sometimes I'm just going to have to let you fail, you know? And failure's not a bad thing as long as you learn from it and you course correct quickly.
Right.
Right. So in this new world of 45-minute sets, hour sets, socials, everything's accelerated. In your opinion, how important do you think like them knowing how important do you think music theory is to today's producers of house music?
It's a great question. It's interesting because myself, when I was young, I was studying a bit of music theory, and I took a classical guitar course at Marshall University, and I got in trouble because I memorized the sheet music,
Mm.
right? Um, And it was interesting. I approached it similar to how I was learning the DJ. And so, and then the other thing that's interesting too, some of the most iconic musicians, like it's kind of a, known fact that Jimi Hendrix, for example, didn't know music
Right.
theory. He even
Right.
played his guitar upside down. He just played by feeling. So I think there's a balance, right? I think
Yeah.
that if you're going to be a record producer and you're going to work with session players and you want them to be able to play something on your composition, then you probably need to know enough music theory to at least say, hey, this is in the key of this.
Right.
Here's the
Okay.
chord structures. But the crazy thing is now with the software, as you both know,
Yeah.
the DJ software can analyze and tell you what key something is in. It's not always right though.
Right.
Um, like even in Ableton, I can even put a plug in on a MIDI track and say I want to play everything in the key of A minor,
Right.
and
You're
Yeah.
locked.
you're locked, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's a balance. I think it depends on what your goals are, right? If your ultimate goal is you want to maybe even incorporate classical musicians or jazz musicians into your productions, it's probably helpful
Right.
to know a bit of music theory. But is it necessary in today's world? No,
Yeah.
I don't think it is. I don't know if you guys ever heard of, there's a really great plugin. This might be a pro tip for you guys. It's called Captain Chords. It's a
Mhm.
plugin by Mixed in Key, who also makes the software for
Yep.
DJs.
Okay.
It's an amazing plugin. It has Captain Chords, Captain Deep, Captain Beats. And when you add the Captain Chords plugin, it pops open a window and says, okay, what key do you want to play these chords in?
Oh,
And one
wow.
of my favorites, it's funny, as I go back and look at a lot of my music over the years, it seems to be A minor.
Right.
And then it'll open up, and then there's like 50, 60 chord possibilities in A minor that literally you can just drag and drop and, change the duration and the spacing. And
Right.
it's a really great tool to help you get started. And then once you do that, you drag and drop the Captain Deep plugin to another MIDI track, and it will ask you, do you want us to connect the bass line to follow the chords?
Hmm.
Damn.
But let me ask you
You,
this: is it like in your course in teaching? I once heard Francis Ford Coppola said this to Dennis Hopper. It's like he was reading the script. He's like, "Yeah, you can forget the script after you know the script, but you have to read the script. You can't just get rid of it." And in your
yeah.
teaching, is it you're trying to teach the script first, as opposed to the kids trying to like throw away the script and do their own thing, and you're trying to get them at least thinking like, let's lay down the fundamental, let's get the theory going first, let's know what we're doing, and then we can manipulate and try these different things because you already know where it could be going, should be going, has gone before. Some sort of terminology I'm looking for that I can't really figure out right now. But that thing, know the base of what you're doing before you throw it away. I can see in the world in which we live in, students just really want to get out there, like you said, get they rush it a little bit, want to get there fast, want to get there quick. In part because some of that is rewarded. You have DJs that do pre-recorded sets and come up with all kinds of reasons
Mhm.
why they pre-recorded sets. I
Yeah.
never understood why they would do that. I'd rather fall on my face if the needle skips or something than playing a pre-recorded set. That makes no sense. Anyhow, that's another story for another day. But is that part of what you're doing, trying to combat the immediacy of trying to get success as opposed to laying down what's really real, which is studying and knowing what you're doing before you do it?
Yeah. So I would say the course is structured, especially in the beginning, is history, right? And important records, how we got to where we are. And then it's something else that I'm really big on is what's called gain structure,
Mhm.
um, is actually knowing how to use the equipment and set proper levels so that we never redline, right? Which we all know is a DJ meme, right? So I think that's the main thing that I'm, especially in the beginning, is like, let's learn some basic audio engineering. Let's learn signal flow, even if it is a controller and it's all internal in the
Right.
computer. Let's understand what's happening here. Let's also make sure that You understand ear fatigue because the more you play with high volume, your ear's going to adapt, and
Yep.
you're going to want to keep turning it up
Yep.
to try to have that same pressure level. So let's make sure that we have great gain structure. And then as far as a script, what I tend to do for their final assignment, for their mix, is they have to choose a setting that they want to perform in. And it's wide ranging. You could say, I'm
Oh,
going to play a daytime set at the pool that's going to be chill, early evening. I could be playing the opening set at a club for one of my favorite artists. I could be playing a set in the jungle during the full moon in Costa Rica, which is
right.
something that I've done and gave them an example of
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, I could be playing a set at peak hour at the nightclub.
Mm-hmm.
This could be my Coachella main stage set. But I encourage them to focus on sets that are more the opening set, more the chill pool party.
Right.
Like, hey, find your favorite boiler room situation. Were they underneath a freeway bridge?
Right.
Were they in the warehouse? As you guys can imagine, there's a million scenarios there. And so basically, that's what they have to do. The part of the assignment is in the beginning, they have to submit. It doesn't even have to be a full page, it could just
Mm-hmm.
be a paragraph or two. But I want you to describe the setting that you're going to curate this set for. Tell me about the audience. Who's there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What do they look like? Um, what's the location? What's the time of day? So that's typically how I lead them into the assignment.
Right.
And then that way they can create because I let them know early on, and I say it multiple times, is like, look, the reality is that you don't want to play all the bangers, all the hits. You're going to need to get deeper with your music because the reality is most of your opportunities are going to be opening DJ sets.
I
So
think it's
learn how to
prob
be a great opener.
it's not it's I think it's more difficult than you think. Sometimes these kids think like you said, paying the bangers up there. It's really a difficult situation some for me, I think. To have that mindset, knowing that you're not the opening act, not the closing act, you're the opening act. How to curate that list that gets everybody ready for the main act. I just
Yeah.
recently, Tracy and I went to a place, Juju, down in Crenshaw District. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Anyhow,
Yeah. We can
I
edit.
saw great opening acts, if you will, getting the crowd going and waiting for the main act, and that anticipation level was just so high, waiting for the main performer to come on. And the main performer paled in comparison to who opened up beforehand. So there's a job to do as the opening act, to do that thing, to get it ready, not to keep it all the way, you know, subdued, bring it up a little bit, because this guy's gonna, or gal's gonna take it home. It's a tough spot, tough spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that especially a lot of the students, I try to get them to understand if you're fortunate enough to open for one of your favorite DJ producers, like don't play any of their
No,
tracks.
number one, number
Yeah, like
one.
don't play their
Yeah.
remixes. And then something that I've been fortunate to have in my career is to be able to play at bigger concerts and shows. Like for example, in my Philadelphia days, I worked with Live Nation to help promote and perform at a lot of bigger electronic music shows. Like we helped kind of break, for example, Dead Mouse, for example,
Okay,
on the East Coast. And in a situation like that, where you're playing it at a more live music concert venue, the opener, the sound system for the opener is going to be restricted. The front of house sound engineer is going to keep the sound dialed back.
right,
They're going to make the lights very minimal, right?
right,
You're not going to get the full light show. You're not going
right.
to get the full power of the sound system because when the headliner goes on, they're saving all that for them
Yeah,
so they can have the big payoff. And I think the challenging thing with, say, a house music party where you don't necessarily have a front of house sound engineer or a lighting tech is there's maybe not as much thought put into the levels of the sound system. I know for myself as a
mm,
promoter, I'm pretty intentional about the people that open. The sound system is restricted, even if that means I have to get on the back of the mixer and turn
right.
the attenuation down.
Hmm.
like that you just can't get the full power of the mixer. The other great thing is like I have the new A9 here,
Yeah.
and now you can run an app like a true
Right.
front of house sound engineer.
Yeah.
Like literally, you're not going to be able to, push it too hard.
Yeah.
But I feel like most DJs that like us that would play together and play events, we know what's up, right? I think it's
Right.
more the younger generation that's looking for that 15 minutes of fame. And I get it. Trust me, when I was a bit younger and I was playing a lot of those concerts with Dead Mouse or The Prodigy or Thievery Corp or whatever, I definitely wanted my moment, but I knew to bring the energy back down,
Right.
minimum 15 minutes before they go on,
Right.
pay respect to that
Mhm.
artist,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I can
Yeah.
see that. Yeah, it's a little
Yeah.
difficult these days with some of these kids out there doing it. And speaking of which, I mean, where do you see it going? I mean, particularly when it comes to house music, I've been talking about this for a while, not having enough young people involved in it. I mean, I've been listening to house music since I was in the 80s. And I think that's why you maybe see it being sustained with some good stuff back then, and it seems to be good stuff right now. But these kids today have so much choices to listen to, and that culture of it is one of the few music genres that has a real culture attached to it that doesn't, at least for now, seem to have an influx of young people in order for it
Mm.
to move forward and to get different points of view. I'm trying to figure out how does that happen. Do you see in your class kids like learning just to DJ, just to understand DJing, or are they engrossed in the culture of house music as something that they want to follow,
Mm.
follow to do as to be a DJ?
Well, I think you'd be surprised of how many younger people are into house music or different flavors, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
the subgenres of house and techno. Um, you know, I think what's interesting too, I just thought of something like in the course, there was a student who came into the course being mostly like mainstream hip hop. But once they listened to several of the guest speakers, they got to hear from Rich Medina, Davidson Ospina, Josh Wink, a bunch of other people, including myself. I think they finally were turned on to the music. So I think that, and even with EDM, it's almost like a gateway thing, right?
Sure.
Like I think in the beginning, a lot of the EDM stuff is just modern pop music, right? But the ones who really are passionate about music and culture, they tend to go deep and learn the history and learn the records that got us to that point.
Right.
So there are, I think you'd be surprised. There's, maybe out of those 35 students, maybe five of them really want
Okay.
to go deep
Yeah.
into it. There was one student in particular, Ethan, who actually just wrote me a really thoughtful message, and it reminds me of why I do this, just saying how much the course changed his life.
Wow.
And there were a lot of great sets in that class. And what we do towards the end of class, I want to make sure I mention this, is everybody gets to perform on stage.
That's cool.
I'm really blessed to have, once again, thanks to Tiffany Naiman and Bob Fink, they allowed me to use Lonnie Hall at UCLA School of Music for our course. And we get to have a stage and we get to have like a cool sound system and lights. So one of the things that they get to do at the end of the course is they all get to come on stage and play.
Fantastic.
And we
Okay.
kind of do it boiler room style where we set, and I can send you guys some pictures, some videos, but we create space where everybody can surround the DJ and dance,
That's
right?
cool.
And Ethan played this set that really kind of blew my mind. It was just
Wow.
really like organic and super thoughtful and really got into tribal house and, you know, what is now called Afro beats, which we all know that's just tribal house in
Right.
some ways, right? Another
Right.
form of that. But I was really impressed with his set in particular, and there's others too. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just he in particular, I have high hopes for his career if he decides to pursue DJing because I feel like he really gets it. And what's interesting about this particular student is he brought his acoustic guitar to class,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
He's like a surfer acoustic guitar player.
Wow.
So you just never know
Mhm.
who might be touched by this, right?
Mm,
So I think you might be surprised. Now, Andre, who's the reason why we're connected, how Andre came into my life is I was a guest speaker at USC for one of his PR courses. His professor, Annika Jackson, and our friends, and she invited me to come and speak to the class about my career in electronic
mhm.
music. And Andre, at that time, I think was maybe 21.
Wow.
And he really made it a point to be politely persistent with me and chase after me, saying he wanted to help. He wanted to be part of it and was telling me how he goes to all these events. Like it's funny, Andre goes out more than I do
Wow.
and, checks out a ton of house music. I'm sure there's some EDM and other stuff in there as well. I think Andre's probably 24 now.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, I think you'd be surprised. I think that the other thing that's changed too is, and this is probably a good thing, maybe Gen Z doesn't drink as much as our
Right.
generation did.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily maybe um, they're not into club culture per se like we were. And we
Right.
remember a time when club culture wasn't about bottle service,
That's right.
right? It was just
Yeah.
That's right.
more, it was a lot about the music. And, you have to look at things from the venue owner's perspective. That's something else that
Hmm.
we teach too. It can't just be about you and your music. You have to understand they have to make money too.
Right.
Um, but I think that things are changing. And um, it's interesting. I just played Bar Smith in Phoenix a few weeks ago, and Sean Badger, DJ Sinbad, who's an amazing DJ. He and I were talking about like a lot of the crazes now you'll see, um, you know, house music parties pop up at a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
cool with that,
Yeah.
actually. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think there's another trend that, and this is something that I talk about with my wife all the time because, I mean, I'm pretty nocturnal, but the truth is unless I'm performing, I don't really want to be out till in the morning anymore. But
Right.
there's now like parties, that run from, 6 p.m. to midnight. And I think that's awesome. I think
Yeah.
that we have to adapt. You kind of have to meet the people where they are. You can't force people to follow something that they're not really interested in, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I think that house music is going to live on, um, and I think that we have to adapt what the format of it is, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's a pool party during the day, we're really blessed here, in Southern California with our weather most of the time, even though it's been a
Right.
little cray cray lately. Um, so there's all these opportunities almost year round for us to experience the outdoors. Like you guys, I think maybe in Crenshaw, you guys went to a park, I'm assuming maybe.
No, this was Juju is a social movement, a social club. They've been around for damn near 30 years, I believe. And this was their second anniversary in an actual storefront place. So they
Okay.
actually have a place where they have alcohol and food and kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
for
But
years, it was like a
yeah.
once a month thing that popped up here or there. Sometimes it would skip a couple of months. But now it's like, I think it's one of the few places that's actually dedicated to house music. And you join, you sign up, and people seem to be really digging it. They're getting a lot more acts to come up, and they're actually opening up. They have this one thing I think is pretty cool. Maybe your students can check out where they have open decks on Wednesdays. Hmm.
Hmm.
So if
Yeah.
you're a young DJ,
Yeah.
decks are open. You sign up the sheet. You can actually go and play live in a spot. So that's a cool thing for
Yeah.
some of your students to check out. Juju Social Club, Brian Crenshaw District, and it's really catching on. I'm like glad to go there from time to time. Tracy and I, Albius and I, we go down there and hang out and do our support just to keep the culture going. Because I think what's interesting is like this is music that unlike hip hop and R&B, there's no radio play for the most part. I mean, I think KCRW every now and again probably does them. I've heard more house music on KCRW than anywhere else.
Yeah.
It's so
That's right.
it's hard to if the kids don't hear it and they're hearing some of this great music for the very first time. It's like, well, what is that? Especially some of the stuff that we're going where there aren't any lyrics. They're just some deep stuff, some ethereal stuff, and you might remember it or you might not because there's nothing really to hold on to. So, for the fact that this culture is still going how it's going, there's something else to it that I think people when they check it out and get involved, hopefully it has an infectious effect
Yeah.
on them, and that's what we're hoping.
Absolutely.
That's why we're glad you're doing what you're doing for the
Yeah.
culture and teaching. That's paramount for its success and its survival.
I
So can
appreciate
I?
that. Well, let me
Yes.
just say something real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt, is I want to make sure we give a shout out to Mystic Pete on KXLU FM Los Angeles because he
Shout out
runs a
to Mr. Pete.
show um, on every Saturday night that runs from like 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. That's
House.
house music oriented.
Okay.
And
All
then
right.
that
Okay.
show re-airs, we'll call it Monday night to make it simple, from midnight to 3 a.m. But yeah, Mystic Pete's also
Mystic
making sure
Pete.
that DJs, and you guys should, I'll connect you guys with Pete. You guys should spin a set on his show.
Cool.
Mystic
Love
Pete
to.
for
Love to.
sure.
All right, that's
Speaking
gonna
of
do
show,
it. Hey, I'm sorry. Go
oh,
ahead.
I know.
I'll get
I
you one
mean,
more in there.
I think we should keep going a little bit because
Sure.
I want to know a little bit about your DJ experience since you played like 1,500 shows. I mean, you played multiple venues, pool parties, private parties, festivals, concerts. Do you have like a most memorable set?
Hmm.
Before we go, can you tell us a little bit about just uh, your experience in DJing and traveling and all that?
Wow, there's just so many. I can think of one from recent times. To give a shout out to my boy Sundance Kid in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. We went down there and we played Barlito in Sayulita, and it was just awesome. It was a really
Wow.
intimate venue. Kind of took me back to my early Philly days. I'm going to say max, you can put maybe 100 people in there, 120, but the energy was just infectious. And
Wow.
Okay.
the party was going so well that the club owner wanted us to keep playing. So that's
Fantastic.
something as of recent. Let's talk a little bit about PEX, the Philadelphia Experiment,
Okay.
which is a collective that I've been part of out of Philadelphia for almost 20 years.
Sure.
And that's a larger collective that originally PEX was born out of. There was this Burning Man camp. I think they were called 215 to the Flame. And then at that time, I was deep into my film and television stuff, and I had a studio space that I rented from this guy. He's known as Lee Mages. He owned this space, and Lee kept telling me about Burning Man and how I should come out there and spin. And then finally, I went out there with him and King Britt, and Pex had this amazing stage, um, on what's called the Esplanade. For people that haven't been to Burning Man, it's basically the equivalent of the 50-yard line, right?
Hmm.
At a big sporting event. And it was all about deep house and soulful house and forms of house music. So ultimately, I joined that collective, and Lee and another a friend of mine who I brought into the fold, who goes by DJ Everyday, Joe Adkins, who now has this amazing sound company called One Source Productions that specializes in Function One.
Hmm.
Mhm.
There was this crew of us, and there's so many other names as part of this too. But it's been about an 18-year journey of us doing events. And I don't know if you guys ever saw that movie 24-Hour Party People. It's a really cool, funny movie, but it's kind of a story about the hacienda and the Manchester music scene. But I think it was like 42 people saw the Sex Pistols play for the first time.
Oh wow.
And it was something similar with PEX because Lee had this warehouse in North Philly, and we wanted a place to practice DJing where we could turn it up really loud. And then the fire spinners and the hoopers wanted a place where they could practice. And it started, we would do these, what were called fire spin jam parties.
Nice.
And this is around 2005. And then we're starting to come out of 9/11 and all the weirdness that happened there, where
Hmm.
all the big clubs kind of closed down and the Rave Act and things. So it would be about 40-ish people, maybe 50 that would come to these fire spin jams. And then one day we just decided, like, hey, let's throw a Halloween party. And it went so well that we had over 1,000 people show up
Wow. That's a lot of
Wow.
folks.
to this warehouse in North Philadelphia. And 18, 19 years later, PEX, we've done even events on a battleship. Like we've done a PEX party
Wow.
on a battleship in Camden, New Jersey.
Wow.
We've done just so many amazing events. So a lot of my favorite DJ sets are with Joe and Lee playing a lot of those PEX parties as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Man, we got to get you back on here because I want to talk about your record
It's too
labels. You
much.
got
We need part two.
shit. I mean, yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah, I want to talk about Underground Soul, about what is the other record label, Play Loop, but I want to just one day talk to you about how you get new artists and all that, and how you do your strategic branding deals and all that. But we can do that another time.
Sorry, you're still playing out though, right? Where's your
Yeah.
next spot where you're playing out? Maybe we'll pop up on you. Where you at next time?
Well, right now I've got something scheduled. I need to confirm it, but I'm supposed to go to Europe and play a festival there. So I don't
Okay.
want to say the name yet until I have a signed contract. That's
Okay.
going to be in August. I'm sure something else is going to pop up before then,
Okay.
because I'm kind of deep in production mode. I think that's something that I've learned over the years, that if I want to create great music, I have to create space for that. And it's hard for me to focus on DJing and making music. But yeah, I plan to also go back to Mexico again. We loved it so much that we're going to go back to Puerto Vallarta and Sayulita probably in the fall. And I do plan to, and I'll make sure you guys are invited. We do PEX parties in LA, and we actually have done PEX parties in LA probably since 2011.
Wow.
And we did one last summer at Hotel Ziggy
Yes.
on the Sunset Strip. So I do my own events. I used to play LA quite a bit for other promoters. I've even been honored to play deep with for Marcus Wyatt back in the day. Marcus is an old friend. So I'm pretty selective about what I do in LA. I tend to want to keep it to my crew. It doesn't mean that I'm not open to playing other stuff, but I'll definitely keep you guys posted when I'm playing local.
We were looking forward
Awesome.
to it. Really appreciate that.
And
All right.
and then we would like to have like I think I mentioned to Andre about putting one of your mixes up with this episode. So no
Yeah.
super rush, but whenever you can get it together.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like to put something custom together for you guys.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah,
So we'll hold off.
Be part of this whole interview is to put up a 1 hour mix of your stuff, man.
Absolutely.
How about that?
It's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Justin Paul, everybody. There it is for Blend LA, the podcast
Thank you.
dedicated to the culture of house music. DJ, producer, educator, Justin Paul on the on the Blend podcast. I'm getting tongue-tied. Thank you so much for joining, man. We'll see you real soon.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for having me. It means a lot. You guys would take time out to connect with me today.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Our pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Coming up next, everyone, it is Justin Paul, DJ, producer, and educator. His mix is next on Blend LA. Hope that you'll join, and we'll be right back after this.
this message to the body all over the world. I don't know what we do. You know, the music stepped in and saved my life. I gotta thank God for the music. We gotta spread this message to the body people all over the world.
Will you cool me down? Will you cool me down? Are you just more fire? Are you just more fire? Are you just more fire? Fire like me. You're so pretty. Were you born in a dream? Maybe otherworldly, or somewhere in between. Yeah, you set me on fire with burning lust. I know I wanna love you. I got to love you. Killer, boom or bust. Yeah. Will you take me down into the darkness? Or will you burn me out? Or are you just more fire? Are you just more fire? Are you just more fire? Fire like me. Are you just more fire? Fire like me. Are you just more fire? I got to love you. Are you just more fire? I got to love. Are you just more fire? Are you just more fire? Fire like me. Are you just more fire?
That's going to do it for this episode of Blend LA. For myself and Albius Negroni, we'll see you next time around the bend, okay? Justin Paul, thank you so much for that mix in your interview. I hope that you all enjoyed it. We certainly did. So we'll see everybody next time on Blend LA, the culture of house music. Take care of yourself, everybody, and take care of each other.